Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video we are going to discuss about UI policies. As we covered about client script in previous video, UI policies are also used to govern the form and form field behavior. But the major difference between UI policies and client script is UI policies do not always require scripting to achieve to control the form fields behavior, but client scripts are must and should require a bit of a client script to achieve any functionality with the client scripts. So let's go back and see what is the configurations of the UI policy. For that, I'm going to fire up the studio and load our NeedIt application. To create an UI policy, I'm going to use this button create application file, and all the client-side development is grouped together under this module called client development, and we have a UI policy option, UI policy to create. So when we look at this UI policy, this will be the advanced view of the UI policy, and you have this fields which we need to provide the values to this field. The first one is the table. The UI policy on which this UI policy going to run. So we have to select this table. For example, an incident table or problem table. In our case, in our custom table called NeedIt. Let's go and pick the NeedIt table. And you will be having a short description. The short description is a user-friendly free-form text field that you can supply any name that you feel like for this short description of a UI policy. But a recommended approach is you mention what exactly this UI policy does here, so that later point of time when you go back and review the UI policy, you don't have to check the UI policy rules to understand what is this UI policy does. So it is in a user-friendly name for the UI policy. And the order. So the order is a number field. You can give any numerical value, but the recommended approach here is either you can use 100, 200, 300 for as a standard approach for UI policies, or you can use at least 10, 20, 30. If you are using 1, 2, 3 as a numerical numbers for the order, then if you want to place any new UI policy between two UI policies, then that will be a bit of difficult. But before that, why this order will be important for us here is, based on the order, if you have more than one UI policy on a particular table, based on this order, the UI policy evolution will take place. For example, in NeedIt application, let's take this NeedIt application have more than one UI policy. Let's consider, for example, 3 UI policy, and 3 UI policies have an order 10, 20, 30. So the UI policy evolution on this table will take place from the least to the highest. So it will first evaluate UI policy 10, then it will go to the 20, and it will go to the 30. So the order will be important in order to maintain the order of UI policies execution. Then when to apply the conditions. So in order to UI policy needs to be executed or needs this behavior to be applied on the form fields, the condition should be met. If the condition is false, then the UI policy will go to the else side of it, the reverse side of it. But that's also, we will check it in a bit. But if the UI policy needs to be executed, the condition should be met. What if you see a UI policy without any condition? Means this UI policy will execute in all cases because we don't have any condition that always returns true. Then global. This global check mark is, when this check mark is checked, that means that if this table have more than one view, it will be applied on all the views of the table. If you are unchecking this, then there will be a view. We need to supply a specific view of the form, so that this UI policy only applies on the view that we are going to select. Mostly, unless there is a specific requirement, we will be using the global as an option. Then reverse if false. For example, you have a condition and the condition returns false. The condition is not met. That means that the UI policy behavior will, or the action exactly applies to the opposite of the whatever the desired action. For example, you are making a field mandatory. If it is the condition is false, then the field is not a mandatory. It's not a mandatory field. For example, one more example, if you make a field visible on if the condition is met, if the condition is not met, the field, what is the opposite to that? The field will be in hidden state. So the property of the field will be hidden. So you don't get to see that field on the form. So reverse false is it will do the action exactly opposite to the UI policy actions that you have placed. Then on load. So this on load, we are specifically asking this UI policy to evaluate on loading of the form as well. Basically, UI policies will execute when the form field values get changed. If you select this checkbox, that means that we are asking this UI policy to be evaluated on the load of the form as well. And the load of the form as well. Then you also have a script. You also have a script section. So the script section will have two script fields. One is executive true and executive false. This executive true we will be using the script options when we are tackling with the complex requirements. When we are dealing with the complex requirement, and this accepts glide APIs, the form side glide APIs, client side glide APIs that are available. Right. So if you place some script here, that will be executed when the condition is returns true. If you place the script here, this piece of script come into picture when the condition returns false. Let's go back here. We are going to, this is what we discussed as of now. Then UI policy actions. So what exactly we can achieve with the UI policy? By UI policy and UI policy actions, you can alter the form field properties. Which properties you can alter? You can play with the mandatory, or you can make a field visible or hidden, or you make a field read only, or it is available for edit. So you can make a field mandatory, you can make a field visible, and you can make also field read only. These are the three major actions that you can accomplish by using the UI policy by declarative fashion. But just now we discussed as well, there is a script tag as well. With the script fields, by writing a bit of the scripting, you can also achieve a bit more than that, but it depends on the requirement. Okay, now we are going to work on one of the use case and one of the problem that support groups are complaining as of now. In our NeedIt application, when the what needed is other, support groups are not having any clue what exactly the user is requesting for. For example, I want some human resource department assistance, so request type will be human resource department. Then I have selected other, and I don't provide any much information about short description or description here. Then support groups who are working on this particular NeedIt request is not having enough information to work on it. So that's a problem that we are going to tackle right now. To counter that problem, the idea that we have right now is we are going to create a new string field which is available only on the form when this choice value is, when needed choice value is other, and it will be a mandatory as well. It will be mandatory as well, and it's a free text form. Let's create this. To create any new field, you can use form designer, form layout, or you can directly create the field in table. Right now we are going to use form design. So to create a field, you have a field types. The field type that we want to create is string. Then bring this field after when needed field in the form and modify the properties, give a meaningful name, other, and give a meaningful name to the name of the field as well, same other, and give a maximum length of 40 characters. Maximum length of 40 characters. And save this. Now go back to the form and reload the NeedIt table form, default form. So now this other field is available. Do we want this other field on all the situations, or all the options, or on the load of the form? No. We want this to be available when we select the request type as human resource and what needed as other. So let's create a UA policy to hide this field when the what needed is other than anything other, and also make this field mandatory when the what needed is other. Let's go to the studio, go back to when needed, go back to short description, make other field visible and mandatory. I'm going to give 100 as it is. When to apply? This should be applies when other, when what needed is other, what needed is other. So we don't have any option as other right now. Let's create a new option to the when needed. Let's go here, choice list, create new. So this will label is other and value is other. Submit this. Table will be NeedIt table. Submit. Let's go to the studio, and for example let's select benefits and save it, and later once we save it we can also change the condition. The condition that we want right now is for other, and save this. What is the which field that we want to make this, which field on the NeedIt table we want it to be visible and make it mandatory? That is the field that we just created, not the choice. The field that we just created is other. This should be mandatory, true, and this should be visible, true. And when the value gets changed, we want this to be clearing that value. Let's submit this. Let's update. Right, we have created a UA policy action. And at the same time, we can also give some instructions to the requested for who is creating this NeedIt request by going to the script, run the script, g_form show field message. On which field that we want to create? Other. What is that we want to show that message? Please specify what is the other request, what is the other ask. If it is true, then we are going to show this message. If it is false, then we want to clear that message, right? So g_form hide message, hide field message, and the message, the field name here is other. So we have created our UI policy. Let's go back here. Open our NeedIt application and see if this is working as expected. So this is our NeedIt application. Let's select facilities. From here, select other. Correct. So the other will be available for us right now. Please specify what is the other ask. Where this is coming from? This is coming from the script that we have created. If I rechange my decision and select security, see that field will not be available